Welcome to Let's Wine. Today we're launching a very special series of 3 episodes called First in Line, and it's inspired by our great guest, Felicia Travaillot, and her nickname, Felixandra the Great. Welcome. So, Feli, along your career, you've had so many experiences, women who showed up and women who did not show up along the way. Are you ready to share some of those not so pretty, rosy stories where women did not show up, where women were there backstabbing you, where women did not have your back?
Yeah, I am. There's so many learning lessons in that. And I think that women in general, we should have some insights into what that does, right, to each other and even to themselves, right, to the detriment of their own career. So I am ready to share all of that.
So let's hear about some particular women who did not support you how you expected and what they did to really lead you to question your ability to do your job.
So, and this is a recent example. I was at a colleague level, right? We were at the same level with a group of women that we were leading our particular regions in this one company, and maybe me in my naive ways, I always thought, let's support each other, let's be helpful to each other. We all have the same pains, budget-wise, resource-wise, different things, but they were all the same pains that we were having across our different regions. And, I always thought that we all had each other's backs, but I came to find out down the road that that was never the case. It was more smoke and mirrors. And in one particular situation, there was one of my colleagues who ended up getting promoted into a role that was essentially my new boss. And she was the boss of all of us. I genuinely was very excited for her. I thought it was a great opportunity. I thought that she was the right fit. And even before that was even a topic of conversation. And we had some new leadership come in, and I said, I think that this person is a fantastic person. She's very, very experienced. She's very smart. I think she's fantastic, and you should have her on your radar. So when I found out that she had gotten promoted, I was genuinely excited and happy for her. And I thought, what better than to have one of us in that role who we all work with already and understands the daily pains that we have and can fight for us, right? Versus having somebody from the street come in that we don't know and could potentially be a nightmare. Little did I know that that very person was going to become my nightmare. So, the story went that she was, I guess maybe didn't feel that I was the right fit for the role, or I was not, up to her expectations. And she was having conversations with leadership. And she made certain comments about me without talking to me as my superior. I would expect that if there are hesitations about my work and who I am as a professional, that you would address that with me. And we had multiple one-on-one situations where she could have addressed those concerns with me, and she never did. Instead, she chose to address that in a very public forum in front of not just her boss, but other leaders within our marketing environment. And it was very embarrassing for me for her to do that. And I was very upset because I thought that, one, we had a friendship. Two, I've been the most vocal, even when the other two girls on our team were not happy about her and they were not being supportive. And I was the one who was always kind of like bringing them back from the edge. Like, guys, come on, let's not be those women. Let's support her. Let's support each other. Because if it was you in that role, I would be doing the same thing. And you wouldn't want us to be dragging you down. Let's do this for each other. So I kept kind of breaking the arguments and the tension that was happening because she had a lot coming from a lot of anger coming from the other two girls. Right. Yeah. So I kept trying to diffuse that. And, it was very hurtful for me because not only was I very vocal, many people in the company knew that I was very supportive of her. So when she did these things that were in a very public forum towards me, against me, to take me down and to bash me down, it was very hurtful. It was very, very hurtful. Nonetheless, I still forged forward because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what someone does to me. I have my own values. I have my own virtues. And I'm not going to change who I am just because somebody has wronged me. I'm still going to stay true to myself. Kind of going back to that original question you asked me in the first podcast. My authentic self will always be there. And I do address things and I did confront her about it. And even still, things became worse until I just decided, this is not serving me anymore.
Right. So what do you think? Because you and I have preteens, like twins, twin daughters who are preteens, and you have a teenager at home. Do you think we're bringing that that adolescence drama into the workplace?
Yes. Sometimes it feels like high school. And I say that a lot, in some of the previous roles that I have had. I have mentioned many times, like, are we in high school? Are we in middle school? Like, what's going on? We're grown adults here. Why are we doing these things to each other? I think that there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of jealousy. There's a lot of anxiety, especially in a cutthroat world of a startup world, right? Where if, we don't make numbers, you get cut. So there's a lot of nervous energy, and I can understand that. But I think that is the comfortable way to go. But I think that we need to realize that if we support each other more and we're vocal with each other, transparent with each other, and we're aligned with each other, and instead of trying to sabotage each other, we would actually get so much more ahead.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So
how do you navigate that situation? What was because the easy way is to quit, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with this anymore. How do you navigate through that? What advice do you have for our audience?
I think the most important thing that you can ever do is a transparency. Don't brush things under the rug. It only creates more of a monster for you and the resentment, because you bring in a lot of emotion, negative emotion into it, create a lot of resentment and more anger. And the more that festers, the more that angers you. And then when you're doing things at work, you can get a little bit spiteful, right? So it just breeds so many other negative things. The way that I attacked this was I just decided one day, this is enough. I need to have a conversation with her. And I did. And I think we got on the phone for, what was it, like 2.5 hours? We hashed it out. The story always goes the same in whether you're married, whether it's a work relationship, whether it's a friendship, it's always your version, the other person's version, and the truth. Everybody has their own perspective until you bring both of those perspectives together. So we hashed it out for something like 2.5 hours. And, at the end of the day, she realized her mistake and she apologized to me. But it didn't end there. Unfortunately, there was already a little bit of a vendetta to maybe want to get me out. For whatever reason, they felt that I was not the right person for the role. And this is where I get frustrated sometimes with companies, because I say, a person's been in a company for X amount of years. They have so much of that intellectual knowledge of the company already. Why not invest in lifting them up, right? Instead of just being very toxic about it and push them out. And that's what they ended up doing to me. They made it so uncomfortable for me that I was just like, I have to go.
Right.
So,
wow, what a lesson, what experience, right? Do you think cultural differences play a role?
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. I think so. One of the things, her cultural background it's a very intense background, right? The way that she communicates can come off very strong. And that's very different for other people to kind of get comfortable with. I didn't mind it. I understood. But if you don't know how to navigate, back to the whole, being multicultural, if you don't know how to navigate that, people, it's not that, something against you. It's just their natural way of being. Then you are able to kind of accept it and work with it. Right. Mm-hmm. But, I also think that, we vie for position a lot, right? And it's kind of like in the wild, you have the lions or the wolves, and they're all kind of vying for alpha alpha domination. And there's always that level of competition that creates that uncomfortable environment, and especially among women. And I think that she got, into this role and she had something to prove. And so, sometimes you become cutthroat, and I can understand that as well. I think that you just have to be understanding and empathetic to situations and be very self-aware, and no hard feelings to her. She was doing what she needed to do, and I did what I needed to do.
Right. And Feli, the only thing that it's living up to expectations for now is this tempranillo, right? And I know you're not too fond of red wine, but it's pretty good. But at the time, I know you had a team. How do you shield your team? How do you shielded your team back then from not being subject to everything that you were going through at the time?
Because I treat everything like I'm a mama bear, and they knew it, and I protected them so much from all of the drama. I kept them informed, but I took the brunt of it. But I think as leaders, that's part of our job. That's what we get paid for, right? And so my team, interestingly, were living in a dream life, right? They weren't dealing with too much of the drama. And when they did get drama into their plate, Mama Bear was always there to kind of stick up for them and take care of them. I always stuck up for my team. And I never, if there was an issue with my team, the one thing that I never did was put it out. Our business was within our team. I never put it out in front of other people. I dealt with it privately, right? So no matter what, our team always looked like a unified front. Just like in a marriage, right? You have your own problems and your arguments, and you don't go and argue in the street. Well, some people do, but I mean, most people won't. And, you handle everything, your business in your home. And, it's kind of like the same mentality.
I love your leadership philosophy and your style, because I know it personally. But Feli, one thing that doesn't get talked about much is how much this type of situations impact our mental health. And because it's not the only pressure that we have. We have pressures at home with our marriages, our partners, our children, plus all this drama and backstabbing at work. How do you dealt with all of that?
I'm not a superwoman, right? I may be Alexandra the Great.
I love that term. We're going to trademark. We're going to coin that term.
We're going to write it on the next cork.
Yes.
I'm not a superwoman. I'm not perfect. And I'm not immune to having meltdowns or burnouts. And I certainly have gone through my fair share recently. I was in a health crisis, and I was taking too much on. I was shielding too many people. And it was bringing me down. I mean, even MoMA was concerned that I was going to have a heart attack. I had gained weight, a lot of weight. I stopped exercising. When I hit my 40s, I was in the best shape of my life. And from all the stress, the traveling, the work, the long hours, I ended up getting to a point, several years down the road where I was just suffering physically. It was affecting me physically, right? So there comes a point in your life where you have to also shield yourself, right? You cannot take care of others if you haven't taken care of yourself.
Right. Put your mask on first, right?
For sure.
Right.
Your glass has to be full before you can give to others. If you're empty, there's nothing you're going to give, right? If you're dead, you're not going to reach those goals, those targets, right?
Right. Oh, but thank you for sharing that, Feli, because it's something that it's still taboo among women. We don't talk about it.
No,
we don't talk about the state of our mental health and how work situations impact our day-to-day lives, and the stress that we put on ourselves and our environment. Because it's not just work doesn't end at work.
No.
We take it home with us.
I believe you and I have messaged each other at 1 o'clock in the morning in our beds, right?
Well, cheers to those many nights and days. And we have so much more to talk about in our next episode, which is about mental health and perimenopause and menopause. So that's coming up in our final episode of these three series, First in Line. And Feli, let's talk about non-negotiables. And why is it non-negotiable for women to support other women?
I mean, again, I go back to a comment that I made in our last episode. We already battle so many difficulties in our own, in our own careers, in our own personal lives, right? We're the ones who have to have babies, take maternity leave. We are the maternal ones. We are the fathers are great, but they are not the ones that are so heavily involved in our children's lives day to day, their homework, their food, the cooking, the cleaning. We do so much. And then we still have to come into the workforce and we still have to hit all these other barriers of, the male dominance, the male preference, all the stigmas about women. If you're too strong, then you're actually known as the B word, which I'm not going to say because this is a family friendly podcast. But, and we can't just be. We can't just be. And add to that, the layer of having to have this cattiness and the selfishness and, dealing with other women trying to backstab you or, or outsmart you or steal your ideas and just, there's so many things that we're fighting against. It's like going against the current. Why not support each other?
That's right.
Why not be there for each other? Why not put, a life a life jacket out or a lifesaver out, for the ones that are struggling instead of pushing them down into the water more. Right.
That's right.
So for me, the non-negotiable is, let's stick together. I think, I always say strength in numbers. That's one of my favorite quotes, strength in numbers. And if we can become a well-formed army of women that support each other, that help each other. And then friendly competition is good, right? It helps us level up ourselves, right? And I've always looked at women that are above me and I'm like, man, I want to be like that one. I want to be like her. You can aspire, but you don't have to bring them down to bring yourself up.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And I love that. And this is beautiful in theory, but in reality, practical examples, like what are some practical insights that you can share as to how we can support each other?
I've seen situations where I've been on calls, right, with other women, and maybe they've been called out by another colleague, man or woman, let's just say anybody, and hanging up from a phone call like that, and then just picking up the phone and calling that person and just being like, hey, are you okay? How are you feeling after that call? Is there anything I can do for you? You didn't do anything wrong. That person was being out of line. Just offering some emotional support, just a little bit of a lifeline. Reaching out, being supportive. If you see that somebody is struggling, and you have a little bit of extra time and this person is struggling with a workload. Hey, how can I help? I have a great idea. Maybe we can do this together. How can I help you? Right. I think in the world that we live in and everybody's just in their lane and just focusing on what they're doing and everything's so fast paced and there's so much negativity in this world. If everybody could just do a little bit of niceness, and it doesn't take a lot, just a little bit, everything would be so much better.
Absolutely. Well, cheers to that. And for those of us in marketing, you've been in the marketing world for more than 20 years.
Yeah.
Different roles, different type of companies, from corporate, big, large enterprises to medium-sized to startups. And you've been through every single company, every single cycle. For those of us, particularly in marketing, the marketing world, and part of our audience, they have some type of marketing background. What would be your advice for them, women who are starting their careers or who have careers in marketing? How can they support other women?
One of the things that I really love, and we talked about the mentoring part of my career and the coaching part of my career, kind of paving the way for those future entrepreneurs or executives that are coming up, opening those doors. And that's what I try to do, right? So I love to look down to those new women that are coming into the workforce and, again, just be that mentor for them, open doors for them, open up that path for them, give them connections, teach them a little bit about how to get to their goals, right? I had a lofty dream one time when I was 20 something, maybe 30s, because I didn't have it quite figured out, but I said, I want to be a CMO. I finally figured out at one point, I said, I want to be a CMO by the time I'm 50. So if somebody would have paved that path for me and said, I'm going to help you get there. Let me open up the doors. Let me introduce you to some people. You know what? You should take this role, right? So kind of creating that pathway, right? I just came back from Sedona and we did a hiking trip. And we were hiking many different paths. And something that came to my mind while we were on those paths is it's interesting because it was very much off the beaten path. It wasn't very safe, but there was a path nonetheless. And in some places there were rocks that were placed, right? And so you can kind of step, right? Or scramble and grab. And that path was created for those that wanted to get up to the top. And that's kind of the analogy that I take with me today as I did those hikes with my husband is we can create those paths. We can make that little tiny mud path. And, as we're going up, let's leave those rocks along the way and open up those paths for everybody. We don't have to close the door for them.
Yeah. And there is no wrong path.
No, there is no wrong path. Look at me.
Yeah.
I chose the long way, but I'm a little bit kind of a late bloomer, as my mom used to say. So I kind of did several different twists and turns, but some people can just go straight up, and it's your choice.
Right. It does. It's about the journey, not the destination.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. And what a lesson about how we need to have more of a sense of community amongst ourselves, amongst women, reaching out, reaching out to women who are not in our own industries, because you and I have friends in common who are not necessarily in the same industries, but with whom you can share. And it's better when you share about your experiences with somebody that is not in your industry, because they give an unbiased opinion.
Yeah.
Right? And we don't take the time. I know you and I do, because we've learned throughout the years to just take time for ourselves and reach out to other women.
Yeah.
And understand what the difficulties they're facing and offering our advice. Right?
Yeah. And I've sat down with a number of young women, just nothing to do with where I work, like you said, not in our industry, just young women up and coming and trying to figure out their paths, whether it's medicine or, engineering, whatever. Most recently I had a situation where one of my sales colleagues, one of my sales reps, he has a daughter who is, I think, in her early 30s, and she was laid off. And, we've been working together, he felt like he respected me a lot. And he's like, would you mind talking to my daughter? And, she got laid off and she doesn't know what to do. And she wants to get some, advice on her resume. And I said, sure, no problem. And I gave her my number and we spoke for like 2 hours and we went through so many different things. And I gave her some tips for her resume. Now with all the resume crawlers and, how to improve her resume and, specific keywords that she should have there. And we went through all of this. Right. And there was no gain for me other than feeling like I helped somebody. Yeah. Right. And her dad was so grateful to me. And we actually spoke twice. And she was so grateful just to be able to kind of have that conversation with another woman, older, senior, and just get some insights. And, it paid off for her. She was able to do some things after our conversation and that went well. And for me, I felt glad, happy to be able to help someone.
Yeah.
I think.
And you're bringing something that is so important. Although we're in the era of AI, nothing replaces this.
No.
Nothing replaces good conversations. Nothing replaces one-on-one interactions.
No.
And that will take you farther in your career than just being just producing the best results. It's how you present yourself, who you network with.
Yeah.
How do you position yourself? How you introduce yourself? How you sell yourself?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And interestingly enough, as high up as I've gotten in my career, I am just learning the value of what it means to network. And this is not a plug. I'm not doing a plug for this company, but I'm just learning about them, and they're called Pavilion. And they are an interesting resource, especially for, the more senior executive roles. And I'm, even for myself, I'm realizing how important it is. I've been so busy mentoring people below me that I just haven't stopped to do the same for myself. Right. So, I'm considering joining this network, and they have amazing resources, and it's just great because you can bounce off ideas with people that have nothing to do with your company and just have unbiased conversation.
Oh, we have to check it out.
Yeah.
Billion.
Yeah. No plug, but plug if you want to throw me a bone, but just kidding.
That's great. And that's something so important. It's, the higher that we go, the less that we tend to make time for ourselves to be mentor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's equally important as when you're starting your career.
I've also learned that the higher you go, the saying, it is lonely at the top.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
It is very true. So, and interestingly, with my team, I try to create an environment where I'm not lonely, because a lot of times people are intimidated by you on, a few levels down. And then you're just kind of in your own world, right? In your executive role. So it does feel lonely, but I try to create, within my own team, like, you don't need to be intimidated by me. Or even outside of my team, you don't need to be intimidated by me. Yeah. And, we can have a friendship, and we can chat and, be colleagues and have a good time together.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's amazing. So what's next for Feli? Is it the CEO role?
It's interesting. I've been looking into the CRO role lately. I've really gotten into, now that I've been exposed to having to talk to my second boss, the board, and really getting into some real numbers. I'm kind of having some fun with math. And that's also very ironic for me because I was the worst math student, tutors and all, my whole life. And I just never got math. But for whatever reason, finance loves me. And they love my spreadsheets, and they love my detail orientedness with all my numbers. So, and I'm really enjoying kind of mapping out, what we're investing, how how it's impacting revenue, and who knows, maybe CRO is next.
But what I love about your trajectory, Feli, it's your reinvention. We talked about in the last episode. If you haven't checked it out, please do. Our first episode, First in Line, where you talked about how you reinvented yourself in your 40s, moving to a different industry. And who knows, maybe this is your second wave of reinvention.
So, I love that you're saying this because a lot of people don't know this, or maybe some people do, but one of my biggest obsessions is airplanes and aviation.
I know.
And I've always said, what do I do when I reach the top? Where do I go? Granted, this is my first CMO ride. I think I might have a couple more under my belt, right? And then after that, I might want to make the blue skies my office.
Oh my God.
So who knows if I might go the pilot route and get my license. And, I love being on airplanes, as you know. I love traveling. That's my happy place. And why not make it my office?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
but I love how you go from big to even bigger dreams, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Well, cheers to that. Now, in terms of reds, you have to share with the audience what's your favorite red. I know you're not a red wine drinker.
No, but I love my Malbec, and I love a good Zucardi.
Okay.
Yeah. Zucardi is a fantastic Malbec. And I've been to their wineries in Mendoza.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, but you're running low on wine.
I think that you need to refill me.
Yeah. This Tempranillo.
It's very nice.
Riviera del Duero, Conde de Ciruela. It's one of my favorite ones.
I have to say, I've never been a fan of Tempranillo.
You have?
This is a good one. I have not.
Yeah.
Tempranillo is one of my least favorite. This is a good one. Well, so good choice.
The conversation makes it all good.
All good. Compliments.
Well, cheers, Feli the greatest.
Felixandra the Great.
Felixandra the greatest.
Yes.
Felixandra the greatest. And now to really leave our audience with a message, because I don't I thank you for sharing your experience about women who did not show up for you, who did not support you. But there are many women out there who support each other, who have built friendships and who are there. What message do you want to leave, especially this month of March, Women's International Month?
Yeah.
What on this second episode, if our audience can take away one message, what would it be?
Let's not be threatened by each other. Everybody is individual in their own rights. We were created wonderfully and perfectly, and we were created with very specific values and traits um, and skills and talents. And I think that everybody has something to contribute. And I think that one of the most important things that we can do is have a sisterhood. We're fighting against so many currents. Let's not fight against each other. And I think that it's so important that we as women help each other, lend each other a hand, support each other. Let's all there's room at the top for all of us.
Yeah.
Why can't we all be at the top?
Yeah.
Let's do it together.
And also, not everybody wants to make it to the top, and that's okay.
And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's totally okay. And that's why it works, right? Some just go to the top and some are happy in certain roles. And that's why I say we were all created wonderfully and perfectly, and we fit into the roles that we belong in, right? So let's just help each other get to those places that we belong, whether it's the top, whether it's here, whether it's there, but let's help each other.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not break each other down and catcall each other and diminish each other, right? We're sisters in this.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. So episode 1 was about building a career and building that roadmap for your career. Episode 2 has been about supporting each other, leaning on each other. So what's coming up in episode 3? We're going to talk about something that is very personal for both of us.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So stay tuned. We're going to be talking about mental health, perimenopause, menopause, and everything that comes associated with it. I think it's going to be our most personal episode yet.
Yeah.
Right?
We have to put some light on it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So looking forward to it.
Thank you. Looking forward to it as well.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Let's wine. Feli, how do we build a culture of women supporting women where that's the rule and not the exception?
I think one of the most important things I've thought about this is get away from the gossip culture. It's so tempting to get into the water cooler conversation, the cafecito conversation. Y fulanita, did this, and get away from that, because that just poisons your mind. And even if you're not poisoned about that person, you are now being infiltrated by those negative thoughts, and you're being, pulled into this negative conversation. So, stay away from the gossip. I hate gossip. I really hate it. And I typically don't get myself involved in it to the point that I'm always confused and I never know what's going on. And I rather not know what's going on. And the other thing is, let's celebrate each other, right?
Yes.
If you get a promotion, if you did something successful, you closed a deal, your campaign was a success, whatever that success is, celebrate it. Let's celebrate each other. And I think the more you breed positivity, the more the positivity flows. You know what I mean? So if you breed negativity will flow. Then you create this dark cloud around everybody. But if you breed positivity, there's always going to be light in everything that you do.
Well, cheers to positivity.
Positivity, yes.
Feli, what a conversation. Thank you for the gift of your time. But we're not done yet. We have another episode coming up. So looking forward to that conversation as well. But I have to say that you've broken a record. You're going to have the most corks here as one of our guests. And you're probably our guest. And we've recorded 16 episodes that it's most active on TikTok. So please remember to follow Feli on TikTok so you can see all her reels or her videos. Please do as the honors of signing the cork. And while you sign the cork, remember to follow us on Instagram, Let's Wine. We're also on all the platforms, YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. So we look forward to having even more great conversations and special guests like Feli.
I better have the most corks in here.
You will. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. That's wine.